Welcome to the March 2024 Real Estate Market Update with Catalyst Funding. I'm Derek Engler, the Marketing Director of Catalyst Funding, and I want to introduce our panel of experts today. We have our founder and CEO of Catalyst, Wade Comeaux.
Hello, everybody.
And we have our Director of Lending with Catalyst Funding, Jeff Johnson.
Howdy.
And this month we have a special guest, the CEO of Total Wealth Academy. We have Steve Davis. I'll let Wade introduce Steve and talk about the Catalyst relationship with Total Wealth Academy.
Absolutely. No, I'm always excited to have Steve on. He has such incredible insight and just also a very charismatic person who's helped so many of the people that we work with mutually. But the things that I like about Steve and his group, probably one of the biggest things, they don't just focus on real estate. They really focus on the entire well-being of you and your family. That's a really big positive. And they just have made a huge impact in also people's real estate investment future and their wealth building and creating generational wealth is something that this group is fantastic at. And Steve, I know you guys just opened up your Dallas location, so I'd love to hear about that. I was there as well, packed house, very impressive for your first event. So tell us about Dallas and everything else that's going on with you and TWA.
Sure. Thanks for having me, by the way. I look forward to this for a week. I've known about it longer than that, but for the last week, I've just been really excited about it because I do have something to share that has helped me when looking at the market. But Total Wealth Academy, yeah, we opened our Dallas Fort Worth office. Fortunately for us, we built it too small. So we're actually negotiating to expand already after our first event. And we're actually in the process of looking at property in San Marcos to serve Central Texas. So things are really growing. We're buying 2 to 6 commercial deals a month, big apartments, self-storage, senior living, and it's an exciting time.
Yeah, no doubt. I was very impressed by the event. It's standing room only, so you're absolutely right that you probably need a little bit more space if it's your first event and everybody can't fit in there. But that's a good problem to have, and I'm sure you guys will get the space where it needs to be to serve everybody over there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that the owners of the building, very well-run building. They're rehabbing it. They bought it, I'm sure, cheap, and it's just a good opportunity.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I noticed in the background there, I was going to let you do a little self-promotion. I see your Yoda and your Darth Vader there, and it reminded me of y'all's next event is May 4th, right?
May the 4th be with you. Absolutely. Yeah, we've got a big expo in Houston where we have 4 case studies of commercial deals in the morning. And you get to see self-storage case study, senior living case study, mixed use case study, and an apartment case study, and see exactly how the members of Total Wealth Academy are building a second stream of income with real estate. That lasts till about noon. Then we break. We're going downstairs and have barbecue, tacos, and just network for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And then we'll have about 30 vendors there that you can meet to help build your team. And that event is open to anyone. It's a free event. They can go to totalwealthacademy.com/expo to get the details.
Their events, the Total Wealth Academy events, are always not just a great place to meet people and network, just also a lot of fun. So I strongly encourage you to visit if you haven't.
Sure.
Right,
Yeah, go ahead. No, that was it.
Excellent. So let's dive in. I know Steve has some exciting things to talk about in the market. Very interesting market at the moment. I'm briefly going to talk about a couple key things on our value proposition, and I'm just going to single out a few. One big thing we're passionate about is being your one-stop shop for all your single family and multifamily 1 to 9 unit investing with one credit pull. We can use a soft pull to get you qualified. That's a really big opportunity to keep your credit score in good condition, but you're able to get qualified for anything in that category, whether you want to do an owner-occupied cash out to fuel your real estate investment goals and single family, or something you might do with Stephen and his group on a multifamily. You can also do, hard money loans to purchase and repair those properties. And then we have a wide variety of long-term loans to fit all of your needs if you want to hold that property as a cash flowing asset. But we've got so much to cover today. I just wanted to do that brief overview. And if we can, let's dive into Houston. I know Steve is based in Houston. And Steve, we've got some numbers here to cover it in the single family space. Tell us, what are you seeing in the numbers? And also, what are you seeing from your gut and the deals that you guys are looking at?
Well, the thing I was excited about kind of is pre-looking at these pages. And what happened was someone was talking to me and they were using the excuse, well, it's a bad market. And I've met people over my 34 years of mentoring, no matter what the market is doing, it's a bad market to get started. And that is just a bunch of BS, for lack of a better phrase. People will say, well, the president, who's the president at the time? Who's the Congress? Who's this? Who's that? And it reminded me, I made money since George Bush. I made money under Clinton. I made money under George Bush Jr. I made money under Obama. I made money under Trump. And I'm making money under Biden, even though he's fighting me every step of the way. I just want everyone to, as they look at these numbers, and you got to understand, you can make money in any market. It's just a slight different strategy. Like right now with commercial prices down, depressed, man, we're buying everything we can get our hands on. Whereas in an up market, we might be much more selective and maybe go a little bit slower, but we're still going to make money. So I want everybody to get out there, educate yourself so that you can make money in any market. If you ever say the phrase, it's the wrong market, that's because you don't know what you're doing. I can go into any market, anywhere, any town, any city, and make money because I read constantly. I'm open to new strategies, and I highly recommend that everybody keep reading, keep studying, keep taking courses, and learn how to make money in every market. So back to your question, Wade. Are these the single family numbers?
These are the single family numbers, yes.
Yes. Wow, not much change. I know you can say, yeah, it's $1 million change from 19, but the numbers are so $100 million.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it's still, I want to see bigger numbers. For me to say, wow, this is a kick-ass market, we need bigger numbers. But at least it's on the increase. I want to see the inventory come up. And I'm sure that's what you're thinking too.
Yeah, inventory is the challenge right now, for sure. I think that we don't have as many listings as we have had sometime in the past, although the listings are coming up now. I think one thing that we're really starting to sense, both on the investment side and what I'm hearing from people that are in the traditional lending space, is that there's starting to become an acceptance of where rates are, right? Now, I'm not saying that people are doing backflips like they were during COVID and buying everything that they could see because either they cash flow or the payment on a primary residence is so low that it just makes sense to buy everything. But there is becoming an acceptance. For a long time, everybody's like, I'm just going to wait until rates start coming down. And if you want to buy a property to live in, or if you want to buy an investment property, you're having to start to accept that that's not going to happen overnight, right? We've been in this rate environment for a while now, and you have to try, to your point, to find ways to thrive in any environment, including this rate environment. And the savvy investors that we see are doing the same thing that you're doing right now, Steve, when you're talking about seeing deals in commercial. Your approach is that the market, when everybody feels like the market's bad, that's when you can buy. Now, you're not going to have the cash flow you do whenever rates are super low, but you're getting that deal at a discount. And if you can make it work now, what are you going to do whenever rates come down? Prices are going to go way up, and your cash flow on what you bought at a lower price is definitely going to go up because you can refi into that deal. And maybe even if you're doing a commercial deal, maybe even a single family, you can get a lot of money back at that time we'll be able to get back to that environment where if you buy at the right numbers today, when rates go down, you got a hell of a deal. What happened in the past year and a half is we bought when rates were super low, projecting to be able to get out of those interim deals into lower rates. Whenever rates go up, it creates friction, it creates difficulty. And that's why there's good buys right now, both in commercial and also in single family.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with everything you just said, because I do believe that I've seen lower rates. You know, I remember it was 7.5, 8 there for a while. Now we just got a commercial loan for 5.5%. So I think people do need to accept it. These are not high rates, 5.5, 6.5, 7. High rates are 8, 9, 10. Normal rates, what would you say, 5 to 7 is normal?
Historically, and we'll cover that in a minute. You know, somewhere around 6 is probably over the past 30 years pretty average. But if you think back in the 80s, rates got up to 18% on a mortgage. So
yeah, that is so sad. I feel bad for those families that had to buy in that environment.
For sure. A couple things in the data here too I do want to cover. I mean, that seemed very interesting. And when we go into the other markets, including Dallas, which honestly has been the hottest market in Texas, you know, the year-over-year price growth is largest in Houston out of all these markets. We're talking 4.1% year-over-year average sales price growth. Year-over-year median is 3%. And the days on market are down from February 2019 pre-COVID, and then also February 2023. So it's pretty interesting that those numbers are pretty strong overall. Anything else you guys are seeing in the exact data for single family in Houston? Yep.
You know, I saw the report and I was very pleased. I thought it was a good report. I thought the prices up 4% is very steady. Up 40 over the last 5 years is great. Like, the market is normalizing. Like you said, people are getting used to the rates, and I think people are just kind of coming to grips with what things cost. And like I said, the days on markets are down, prices are up. I did notice relative to the other markets, the number of listings is really high. And the only thing that maybe you guys have an insight, the only thing that I couldn't figure out, I always look at sales relative to listings. So, you know, if you put a property on the market, what's the likelihood it's going to sell? And the ratio, like the sales to listings, is extremely low relative to the other markets. Even San Antonio, which we'll see in a couple slides, is not doing that great. Like, I'm not sure why the number of sales relative to the listings is so low compared to the other cities, when all the other numbers are really solid. Like, you look at like Dallas, for example, it's twice as many. So if you had 40,000 listings, you'd expect to see almost like 12,000 sales at the Dallas clip. So that's the only part I couldn't quite figure out.
Good question. I don't know if that's a leading indicator or not, but the days on market is lower than Dallas at the moment.
It is. That's what it is.
Months of inventory is a little bit higher, as you would guess, based on what you just said. But months of inventory is not drastically higher. Like, it's only 3.4 months versus 2.7. So I'm unsure exactly how all that math bakes in. But Steve, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No. Yeah, no's the answer. But I'm glad he brought it up, because that is interesting.
Okay. Well, let's go to the next market that we've been talking about, and this has for some time. Well, I'm sorry, I got one more slide on Houston. So we wanted to cover the single family rentals, and one thing to keep in mind if you are a single family landlord, which all of our borrowers are and a lot of Steve's members are as well, is that rents typically lag increases in home prices, right? And that just doesn't happen overnight, because people have a 12-month lease, they have a 24-month lease, so they're going to stay in that property at that lower rate as long as they possibly can. But it does eventually catch up, and we're starting to see it catch up. I have a single family portfolio where we're getting some very good rents this time around, and it was very difficult last time around. But overall, they're not up as much as you might think from February 23 to February 24, 5.5% increase in total listings. As far as average lease price, it's only up 2.7%, which is still a little bit below what we see in growth for home prices. So
it is. I do think, if you remember I don't know, a year ago, whenever rates really started spiking, we would see in our world, we would see a lot of deals where the cash out of pocket at the end of them was significantly lower. Like it plummeted. The amount of money it takes to get into a deal when rates went up was because everyone got scared. It's like, like you said, Steve, it's a bad market, I'm out. And so the people that were still buying were getting deals at a much deeper discount. And the thought process was, look, buy a property with way less out of pocket. You're probably not going to make much cash flow, if any at all, but eventually over time, your leases are going to increase. If rates drop, you can refinance, great. But even if you don't, over a long enough time period, you're going to start making significant cash flow because the leases just go up. And so people that did that bought a year and a half ago, are starting to see those rewards, even though it's maybe a little bit less than what we expected. It's creeping up there. So your point, you said, anecdotally, Wade, you had on yours, your rents are going up quite a bit. So we're basically seeing what we said was going to happen about a year ago. The folks that buy these properties are going to end up cash flowing over time. You just got to wait it out.
Yeah, everybody needs to listen to what Jeff just said. Rewind this and listen to that, because that is so accurate. The equity capture that people don't even think about because it's not cash flow, you can't spend it. You got to think about the fact that you bought a $300,000 house for $250 all in. You picked up $50,000 worth of equity. That goes on your net worth. And yeah, the property breaks even or only makes a couple $100 a month. But the other thing is, you're not married to the interest rate. You're married to the property. So as soon as the rates drop, like Jeff said, and Wade alluded to, just refinance that sucker and your cash flow is going to go up another $300-400.
Yeah. Yeah, we looked at a deal the other day for somebody. They were kind of debating on it, and I was talking with the client. They asked for a little bit of advice, and I mean, the cash flow on the property was, I think it was close to 100. But once rates get down to, let's say, 6%, it was like another $100. If it gets down to 5%, it was another $100. And those things are all within the realm of possibility in the next couple of years for sure. I think that's very even probable that you would get to 6, and reasonable that you would get to 5. Now, do I anticipate us getting down to 4% on non-owner occupieds anytime in the near future? I don't. But that was a once in a lifetime thing. Honestly, that's just incredibly rare. All right, let's talk about Dallas. I was very interested to see the numbers here because Dallas had been by far the best achiever on year-over-year single-family average and median sales price growth for some time, and Houston has passed it up now. And also the days on market are a little bit higher than Houston, months of inventory lower. But now if you still look at pre-COVID to now, they have crushed everybody else. I mean, 64% growth in a 5-year time frame is pretty incredible. Wow. It's an amazing success story there in Dallas. But I thought it was interesting that Houston has surpassed it year-over-year growth. Maybe they were just a little too hot for too long. I know you just moved up to Dallas there, Steve. What are you seeing as far as what the investors are saying that's different than what the vibe may be in Houston? And if you don't mind, focus a little bit on their single family outlook.
Well, we're really not investing in Dallas per se. It's kind of like in Houston. Yeah, there's a few properties we buy in Houston, but the majority of the deals are in the little surrounding communities. In Houston, it's Katy, Clear Lake, up in Conroe. They're on the outskirts of the town where we can find homes. The ARV is between 250 and 350. Now we're buying them for less than that, obviously, but there's the target deal. And the members, I had to the members were coming to me going, those houses don't exist in Dallas. And sure enough, when we went to the outskirts, the little towns around, we found them. So we're sticking to the same business model. Our rentals, 250 to 350 ARV. And again, we're picking them up for 10, 20% below market, sometimes 30%. And what we've discovered because of the interest rates is what we just discussed. It's only $100, $150 positive cash flow, but we're getting a $30,000, $40,000 equity pickup. We're getting appreciation. We're getting depreciation. It's still financially a great decision.
Yeah, for sure. We've seen the same thing for some time. That area north of Dallas, like a good bit north of Frisco, north of Plano, all the way up to the Oklahoma border and even into Oklahoma is super hot right now. Like that is a fantastic area. You can actually get prices a little bit lower than that 250 to 350K range from what we've seen, and excellent cash flow. And the great thing about that is those people are commuting into those high quality Dallas jobs. So much of that Fortune 500 corporation headquarters is in that North Dallas area, and you could just have a 30 to 45-minute commute, which is very reasonable in a major city to get in there at very low cost of housing. So I agree with you. That is the recipe for success. People that can commute to outstanding high paying jobs, but still have that reasonable price point of a home.
Yeah, the people need to be aware, if they're not, that logic would say that a $400,000 house would rent for twice as much as a 200, but it doesn't. And it gets worse the higher you go. So there is a sweet spot, and really we could go as low as 200, but between 200 and 350 ARV, that's the sweet spot. Those get the highest rent per dollar spent.
Yep. No, that's a absolute fact there. I think I see people that they're like, oh, this area is up and coming. I think there's a lot of potential here, but it's 450. And I'm like, well, you can make that play. I'm not saying it's an unreasonable play if you're aware that there's a huge job opportunity coming in or something like that you're aware of. That can be a reasonable play, but it's not the safest play. The safest play that really works in single family is find something that has really great cash flow at a reasonable price, or doesn't have great cash flow in this current rate environment, but has great equity capture and the potential in the future to have that great cash flow whenever rates adjust. That's the playbook. Let's go over San Antonio, where Steve and his team, I just heard, are looking in that greater San Antonio, San Marcos area. That's very exciting. So everybody that's on the phone in that greater area, definitely keep Steve and his team in mind whenever they get cranked up on an office there, because it's definitely a great organization. But, San Antonio has been lagging behind it, and some of these statistics are interesting. You look at that months of inventory, definitely the highest amongst the groups in 80 days on market, and that trend has been going up. Ironically enough, we continually see pundits, national pundits, and some Texas people that say San Antonio is still a great area to invest in because of the price point relative to the amenities. But it seems like that's going to be a longer term play than an immediate play, because there's a little bit slower movement in this market than the others.
Yeah, so the folks that are telling you it's a bad market to invest in, do they see San Antonio as a good market to invest in? Things are getting cheaper over there.
Yeah, I've got a couple of friends, students, and they're picking up houses, but I can tell you this, they're not getting them off MLS. They're hustling, they're doing mail outs, and they're finding these off-market deals.
Yeah.
And they're finding some really good deals in San Antonio.
Yeah, I mean, the market itself, this is definitely not the case in the other markets where you have prices that are down 4.5-ish to 5%. So that's very interesting. So that is a market there. And if you look at what all of the national and local prognosticators are saying, is that San Antonio is going to be an upmarket over time. So I think this does present a window of opportunity. If you believe that, to Jeff's point, down prices mean good deals, then that would be a place in which to be. I'm not saying that's always the absolute truth. I think the biggest thing, in my opinion, which we've kind of nibbled around at the corners on today, is that if you can get a discount, the larger discount to the current value is the most important thing. If you can get that because people are afraid, or you can get that because of interest rates and people not seeing the cash flow, in my opinion, that's the best, because you got that stable value and you have less out of pocket, which really helps your ROI. That's whenever you can really get stellar deals. But to Jeff's point, down market a little bit on the prices here. That's unusual for Texas. It's the only market. Austin was there, but it seems like Austin has pulled out of that. But the days on market and months of inventory is higher. So you definitely want to get an attractive deal there in San Antonio, because I think the market should be right for that.
I wonder if that task force has anything to do with the days on market, just taking longer.
It could, and for those of you that do not know, it's something you definitely have to be aware of in San Antonio. We've seen this happen to a lot of our borrowers, is you must get permits on every deal. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because they are actually, this is the only major metro I'm aware of that does this. They have people perusing MLS for rental listings and for what appears to be a flip type listing. And they are going out and making sure that those properties have permits, and in many instances they don't, and they're coming in and really slamming people, often requiring you to pull things out, maybe sheetrock. So you must go through the permitting process there in San Antonio more than any other city. I'm aware of no city that has that type of intense focus at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. San Antonio, like Wade said, make sure you have your permits in line. You don't want to get stuck completing a project and then they show up. I do think it maybe has a little bit to do with it, but good for you. I don't know if you're San Antonio. I don't know if are you guys, are your people in San Antonio, are they buying, I'm assuming they're buying rehab properties, Steve, or have they just, do you know anything about this task force? Have they mentioned it to you at all or no?
I train my people to get permits, so I assume they haven't had a problem because they were trained to get them.
Yeah.
So
I will say a lot more people in Dallas and Houston try to avoid them on lighter rehabs. And sometimes that can work for you. You got to do very strategic things, like if you're going to put your dumpster out, you got to put it out on a Friday, pick it up first thing Monday. Like, there's some techniques you can do, but if you get popped, it can be really problematic. But I know some more experienced people that do that on occasion. You just can't do it in San Antonio because it's not a matter of them seeing a dumpster. It's not a matter of them seeing work being done. It's a matter of them checking the MLS. And there's no way to avoid that, because you're eventually going to list it to sell or you're going to list it to rent. And we see people getting popped continually. So don't, if you're going to try that anywhere, San Antonio is not the place to do it for sure.
Yeah.
That's good information.
Yep. So Austin was the absolute hottest market in the country for a large portion of time, including the COVID era. And it's, if you look at the increase on median sales price, it's nowhere near where Dallas is. It's above Houston, definitely above San Antonio. But the days on market are up. Some months of inventory are up, but the home prices are starting to stabilize and improve. So I think these are some green shoots coming through in the Austin area, which is exciting. But still, those national prognosticators, I saw, I can't remember, it was Redfin or something, that said that Austin and San Antonio were the two best markets to invest in, not just in Texas, but nationally. So there's a lot of people saying that these are very good areas if you're thinking about long-term appreciation and long-term rent growth, because there's a lot of those tech jobs that are in that greater area that are really, really high paying. When you look at the average income in Austin, it's through the roof.
Yeah, it's basically come back down to being a normal market like the others. It's not stupid high like it was a couple of years ago, and it's not this stupid low of it normalizing. It seems like it's pretty like a regular market like all the other ones are at this point, at least.
Yeah. So this next slide we're going to cover. Very interested to hear your opinion on this, Steve. I know you have agents that I'm not sure if they work for you exactly or if they're just supporting your organization, but nonetheless, this lawsuit is a really interesting moment, right? Tell me what you and your team feel about this lawsuit and where you think smart investors go from here.
This is rough. Even though I have a realty company, I don't think much about this because we're still pushing for 6%.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can negotiate. And in reality, they could have negotiated before.
Sure.
I had agents that charged me 7% because they sold it in one day. This guy comes to me and he goes, yeah, we're under contract. This was like literally a day after I signed the listing agreement. I got it under contract, but what if I can sell it in one day? I said, I'll give you 7%. And he hands me the earnest money contract.
This guy knew what he was doing.
Got him.
It's always been negotiable. So to me, it's got little effect. I'm sure certain companies are going to get hammered, but it just isn't having a huge effect on us. I haven't had one person come in here raising Cain about this decision.
Okay, good. I think the one thing people are wondering how it's going to go, I guess, is that, for the longest time, the sellers paid buyer's fee as well. And that's going away. So you can be negotiating, I guess, directly with the buyer's agent on that without the seller paying for it. So I don't know exactly how that dynamic is going to work, but there are definitely some people who are interested to see just how the new normal is going to be. To your point, I think for really good agents who provide excellent value, I don't think that they're going to be impacted. I think there's a lot of agents who just do deals occasionally, probably don't have a lot of market expertise. They don't have a lot of savvy. They don't bring a lot to the table other than sometimes just having a license. I think those people may be squeezed out a little bit by this, but I think the people who are really good at what they do, to your point, they can make money in any environment, no matter what the regulations are.
Well, I know you said that it's negotiable and it's always been negotiable, and that may be true, but like, do you really think people knew that?
Yeah, that's the point.
I don't think the general public was like, oh, I can negotiate this. I thought, well, 6%, that's the price.
That's the best thing to come out of this, to me, is that now the average person knows that it is negotiable. And I think that will help a lot of people, especially, when you're sitting there and the house is going to sell in 48 hours, the realtor's not having to do as much work. Yeah, that's negotiable. But I do want to stress that a good realtor is worth their weight in gold. They keep the sale closed. They do massive amounts of paperwork, something I would never do. They're worth their weight in gold if you find a good one.
Yep. Yeah, market expertise and understanding all the different nuances, especially for people who aren't as savvy. There's an enormous amount of value in that because there's so many tricks of the trade that a good agent really helps you avoid pitfalls and take advantage of the opportunities that are there, for sure. That's both in investing and just buying your own primary residence, right?
Yeah, I've had people say to me, oh, I listed it on Monday, they showed it on Saturday and sold it, and now I got to pay them 6% commission. Do you realize they sold it on Saturday? They did something.
Yeah.
What do you want them to take? 6 months? Would that make you feel like they earned their commission while you sit on the house for 6 months? No, if a salesman can close a deal in 1 week, I'm giving them their 6% and making sure they get it.
Yeah. Yeah, that it's an odd situation for some people. Sometimes people that may have not been in a commissioned environment or in a bonus environment where it's just kind of been the base pay, it's like exchanging hours for money, right?
Right.
But if someone's really good at what they do, that is invaluable because they saved you so much money on holding costs and everything else. It's a really big deal. It's a great point. So this next slide is interesting, Jeff. I know you were, when we were reviewing these slides, you were talking about this. So tell me a little bit about what you see here, the different markets on the rents.
So it's just kind of typical what we were discussing earlier. It breaks it down by city, and I apologize, it's really difficult to read, but if you look in these little quadrants here, the upper left is Austin, the upper right is Dallas, lower left is San Antonio, and lower right is Houston. And so it's just kind of what you were saying, where the price it's measuring the home value percentage change and the rent percentage change. And if you look at the baselines in each city, you see they move in concert. So to your point earlier, when values are going up or down, rent will follow. It's, with very few exceptions, it's pretty consistent. Now, there's a few anomalies. Like I look at Dallas, I guess in the beginning of the chart, and Dallas had a nice bump up in the values relative to the rents, but it quickly kind of crashed and then corrected. Everything else is moving in concert with the values. Like it's very consistent. It should give solace to real estate investors that, so goes the market, so goes your rents. So when things are on the upswing, your rents are going to go up as well. So on the downswing, you can buy cheap properties. It's just good data to show that regardless of the market, if you do it right, there's money to be had if you're buying these properties.
And that it always lags. I think that's a key thing. home prices are going to go up before rents go up because home prices are nimble. Like if you list a home today, there's no 12 to 24 months that somebody's forced to stay in it or is going to take advantage of staying in it because the rents are lower than what the market might bear. So I think that's the thing you have to be prepared for, is that it does get better over time as a landlord. This moment right now can be very, very difficult if you just had a rate adjustment or something like that, or if you're buying today, it could be a little bit difficult, but the increased rents are going to come. You can see that historically. And if you go back further on this chart, it's the same information. This is a very limited window of, from 2015 on. But if you go back further in time, it's the same thing. Whenever home prices go up, rents follow because people don't have as many options. They're going to be pushed into that rental market and be willing to pay up.
Yeah.
Anything else you see here, Steve?
This is kind of a different comment, but if you look at Dallas, I remember in reading articles back in 1819 about rents are dropping, blah, blah, blah. Look at the real rent drop. What is it, 2%?
Yeah.
And then it dropped all the way, maybe 3% in 2020. And now it's up, what, 12%, 11%?
To be clear, I don't even think these are drops. Like if you look, because it never gets below zero.
That's the point, Jeff. I don't think they're drops, but the news, if you watch the news, which I don't because it's all fake. They're there to sell advertising, not to give you the news.
Yeah.
And they're telling people the rents are dropping, rents are dropping. It was 2-3%. That's not a drop. It's not going to affect a family's ability to buy food.
Yeah.
Now it's up 11. The true graph is always up, like you said, Wade. If you were to go back further, the graph is going up.
Yeah.
It always does.
I think probably what they said, this is one of those interesting play on words, like you said, where they've already determined what they want to say and they try to find a way in which to say it with the data. But the rent rate growth dropped. The amount of growth dropped from 5 to 2%. But it wasn't the rents dropped, right? That's a very different thing, but it's easy to hear that. I totally get what you're saying. All right, let's look at this next slide we have here. Housing supply shortage, right? So America is short around $3.2 million homes. We've been talking about this for a long time, right? The amount of people that want to own homes relative to the amount of homes available, we've been in a deficit ever since, well, for a really, really long time, but especially after the great financial crisis back in 2007, 2008, 2009. New home builders just shut down. They didn't build homes at all for fewer homes than they built in the 40s and 50s, ironically enough, with half the population. So we're still trying to catch up on that. So there aren't enough homes. And that's why we're seeing this environment that was really difficult to predict. Extremely high home interest rates, without a big drop in home prices, right? That's just a very, very unique situation, but it's because in large part, this supply shortage. Right? Whenever a home comes on the market, even at the rates it is today, it's still selling pretty quickly, and that not a decreased price.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see decreased prices in single family for a while.
Agreed.
Like I said, the deals we're doing aren't even making it to MLS. Most of them are off market.
That's the way to do it.
So for the average bear out there, Steve, where can they find some good off-market deals?
Well, in Houston, other than hustling, driving for dollars, just driving through neighborhoods, looking for abandoned houses, things like that, believe it or not, that's probably 30%. But the rest are marketing through foreclosure lists, pre-foreclosure lists, divorce lists, and there's even some companies like realestateIQ.org, that can find you distressed property that just has deferred maintenance.
Yeah.
So they've been doing lots of mail outs, lots of phone calls, networking, and driving for dollars.
And if you don't have the time to do that, build relationships with wholesalers or the agents that Steve has at his group that know wholesalers and can find off market deals as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of one-off wholesalers, young people but the big box wholesalers and their hard earnest money from day one, newbies should not be doing that. They really need to find deals where they can get an option period, 5-day option period. Whereas these big box wholesalers are saying, look, write a bid, put your earnest money up. It's hard earnest money from day one. That's risky because you don't have a bid for the repairs, a written bid for the repairs. And that can come out way higher than they predicted.
Yeah, I think there's a good progression to your point, early on, getting your capabilities built out, really working with GCs, maybe not getting the absolute best deal on your first deal so that you can, because you have more time to do due diligence can be a good idea. Working with agents like at Total Wealth Academy, you may not get as good of a deal as you could get from one of these wholesalers directly, but it's going to have more due diligence with it, right? It's going to have a little bit longer time frame. So I think on your first deal or two, until you get your team built out and you get your chops on estimating repairs, it can be difficult. But once you get it's not rocket science to figure out how to estimate repairs. Once you've done it a couple of times, then you can kind of progress to that, right? Good point.
Yeah, I tell people really don't eyeball it till you've done 3, maybe 4 deals, written bids.
Yeah.
But once you've done 3 or 4, and I mean full circle, you got the bid, you closed the deal, you rehabbed it, you sold it or leased it.
Yep.
3 or 4 full circle deals. Like you said, Wade, you can walk up to the building and go, this is a 40,000, this is a 60,000, and then you can put up hard earnest money because your numbers are high. Then the real bid's going to come out below.
Yep, great point for sure. Let's look at this next slide here. Jeff, more data on the housing supply shortage, but I know when we were reviewing the slides the other day, you had some good comments on this.
So, well, this is this is a baseline of 2022. So it really just, if you read the comments, it really spells it out. But with rates being where they are, the percentage of deals in the United States that are new homes versus existing homes, they're going in completely opposite directions, right? The new home builders coming on market, and existing homes, the problem is, like you said, if one goes on the market, it gets bought. The issue is people have such good interest rates. They're so leery to get into a much higher interest rate unless they have a house cash, because they know that their payment is going to be significantly higher. It's just math. You look at payments on a 2, 3, 4% interest rate versus what they get now, it's a lot more expensive. So fewer people are selling their homes, which kind of skews these numbers. But if they do sell them, they sell great, just like anything else. But it's just kind of, it's exacerbating the situation where you're just getting so many more new home builds or the sales versus existing homes, which aren't coming on the market.
Yep. Any other comments on the supply shortage, Steve, and your thoughts on this going forward?
I think Jeff hit the nail on the head. I got nothing to add.
Okay, perfect. So this home buyer sentiment slide that we're going to cover next, it's talking about, we've been talking about this, and I know you've talked about it a lot, Steve, pent-up demand that people have in the higher rate environment. There's so many people who are wanting to buy. They asked the question I thought is interesting. U.S. News asked, pretty good sample size, how far do rates need to go before you start buying, right? And so 15% said below 6.5. We've been in that range already and hovering around it. So that's not outrageous. And then you got below 6%. I think that is somewhat reasonable, but that's only, you look at those two numbers combined, you're talking 43%. But you have another very large percentage that is saying below 5.5, which I don't think anybody anticipates happening in the not too distant, in the next year or so, the next maybe even 2. But I think these people are going to start to continue to adjust, because if somebody needs to buy a home and they don't want to pay rent anymore, they want to start investing. I think people are starting to really normalize to this. But these numbers, I looked at a very comparable chart a while back, and it was like the numbers were even lower. They had some 4% numbers on there. How long will you wait? And it was like, and the question was 4%, because I think people had more of a belief that that was imminent, and people are really starting to accept that 4% that's a thing in the past for a very long time. And these numbers seem more reasonable and not as far away as they were with the expectations that people had about a year ago, and getting back down to 4% quickly.
But that's a big chunk waiting for below 5%. I think they're going to be waiting for a long time, if ever. Yeah,
I will say, we talked about pent up demand though. God forbid if this happens, like numbers are going to shoot through the roof. Because if this is real, people are going to see those numbers and they're going to go all in, and you're going to see a massive spike in values.
yeah. If it were me and I was buying a house right now, I would find a beat up piece of crap, rehab it, move in with the higher interest rate, and when the interest rates drop, just refinance it. I'm not going to put off buying a home to serve my family because there's a point interest rate higher.
Completely agree. All right, next slide. Steve, I don't know if you had a chance to deep dive this one, but it's talking about home buyer sentiment, similar information. Just how long will you wait for those rates to drop? What do you see here?
I think that I don't agree with it. I don't think you could survey this and get a real answer. And the reason I don't is because buying a home becomes emotional. The wife is going, we don't have enough room. And the husband's going, I need an office. And sooner or later, they're going to come to the realization that the rates aren't dropping anytime soon, and they're going to go ahead and buy. I just don't know what's going to kick that off, why people aren't waking up and just getting out there and buying.
I think it's starting to come back in as the numbers are starting to get more robust in most of the markets, a little bit of uptick. I think it's just going to continue to be a more gradual thawing without a big decrease in rates. But to your point, I think some things have to happen. You know what I mean? Those two parents that one says we don't have enough room, one says we need an office. They're probably also saying they need to get the kids in the yard so they can have a moment of sanity. So there's all types of things, pushing that. But yeah, I think people eventually just have to do it no matter what the rates are, as long as they're not ridiculous, which they are not today.
Over time, both those last two charts, over time, they're going to get more favorable for people doing stuff, because you reach a point where it's like, okay, well, I've been waiting for X number of months or years. They're going to do it. As rates normalize, and if they don't drop, then those numbers I got to get a 5. Those people that need a 5, that percentage is going to shrink, and it's going to creep up to the higher numbers when reality sets in.
Yeah, it's like I watched a guy let his apartment complex go into foreclosure because he waited till the last minute to sell it. He was thinking the interest rates were going to drop, and needless to say, they didn't, and we couldn't get the sale done. And this guy who should have sold it to us ended up getting foreclosed on because of just unrealistic expectations. The other problem I see here is people are thinking a home is an investment. It's not an investment. It's an expense. It's an expense, and it's there to serve your family. Don't sit back and not buy a home for your family that's going to bring you joy and laughter or happiness because you're worried about a point of interest. A point in interest, I should say, not a point of interest.
Sure.
Get your doggone home, be happy. Yeah, it may cost you an extra $100 a month, $150 a month, even $200 a month more. But again, you're not married to the interest rate. You're married to the house.
Yep. That's like 1 or 2 nights not going out to dinner or something like that in the overall scheme of things. Yep.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
This next chart has really got some meat in it. I know, Jeff, we deep dove this one the other day. It's from HAR. It's talking about the Housing Affordability Index and just the shifts in that over the last couple of Q4s. So, Jeff, what do you see on this report?
So it's basically, we look at the affordability index all the time. This is more specific to Texas, US, and the Houston market. But if you just look at the income required to purchase a property, to afford the median home and a median price, in just a year, it's gone up. I was amazed that it went up so much nationwide. If you look at the that bottom number there, minimum qualifying annual household income, Q4 2023 is 106. Then the one to the right before it, the year before, is 97,000. So it's almost a 10% bump in income that you would need just to qualify to buy the median house. So with values not even really going up much. I mean, if you look at these prices, they're relatively flat. US is up, Texas is pretty flat. Just the impact of the interest rates have on who could qualify for a mortgage and the mortgage payment, it just kicks people out of the market. It was just really interesting to me.
Well, the other thing that's interesting is the average income for a 4-person family is only 101. So there's a lot of families who are falling well below what they need. Yeah, just to your point, Jeff, a lot of people are getting kicked out of buying a home unless they go way below the median price.
Yeah. One thing that is very interesting to me here is that, to Jeff's point, the home price, the minimum qualifying income in the rest of the nation, this includes think about this is national everywhere, right? So this is small town USA, everything is higher than what it is in Texas. And you're talking about 4 of the most attractive major metros in almost every area. You've got attractive weather, excellent job market, lots of amenities, right? You've got shopping, you've got restaurants, you've got entertainment. You have all those things, and still, relative to the rest of the country, including every little tiny town out there, still reasonable to get a home in these major metros. That's really pretty darn incredible, in my opinion.
At the risk of being biased, what are we doing here? It's a great place to live. Why is it so much cheaper than everywhere else? Still,
yeah, it's amazing.
The biggest reason is it's easier to build here, less regulation. That's the common thing. I think you guys probably saw a chart we covered in this meeting. I don't know if you were on the call, Steve, but there are more permits in Dallas and Houston individually than the entire state of California, right?
Wow.
So it's just easier to build here, so there's more inventory coming in. If you have a complete, we already have a lack of inventory in Texas. Can you imagine a lack of inventory if you can't get permits or it takes 5 years to build a property? It's just, I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, you look at that fire and they're building homes, they're rebuilding homes that the families can't afford that used to live there.
Yeah.
Again, that's California.
Yeah. All right, let's look at this new slide. We've got a little bit of time before we need to get to some questions. This comes from Texas A&M, which provides a lot of great reporting. And this is really looking at new and existing home sales. We had a slide that covered this earlier, but it goes a little bit farther back. But you look at that new construction percentage for a long time, until 2016 or so, is an equal amount of existing new construction. Now, there's just not enough existing home inventory. The percentage of new construction is really skyrocketing right now. And the existing inventory is just petering out. So that's the good thing. If you are putting a more reasonably priced flip with quality construction out there right now, because it's going to be way cheaper than someone can build it brand new, you've really got something that's coming off the shelf. So we've seen a lot more investors, and there was some nervousness out there. I was nervous too on flip lending as a lender, but also for flip investors. But man, they have really done well lately because there's such a small amount of those, flip type properties out there, because most people are not putting their homes on the market unless it's new construction.
I do find it interesting, the bottom right chart, starting in 2020, even in Texas, it's starting to dip a little bit. With all of the demand for housing, especially with the rates being where they are, they're just not hitting the market. I'm surprised that's not going on the upswing.
Yeah, that is interesting, Jeff. I'm glad you pointed that out. I didn't notice that.
You're talking about single family permits.
Lower right.
Yeah, the bottom right. Yeah, like with rates being where they are and the lack of inventory, like I would think that they would be really on their game and trying to build as much as they could, as fast as they could, to cash in before rates drop, and the existing inventory starts becoming more available.
For sure.
But I'm not a new construction guy. I don't know. Maybe there's good reason behind it.
Unsure. I think we got a couple minutes. I want to respect everybody on the web call's time. So I'm just going to point out a couple quick things, and then we're going to go to questions. Here, we've been showing this chart for a long time, but we like to always show it. And this shows the number of homes built and population over time. And you can just see that, like we talked about earlier, that period after the great financial crisis, fewer homes were built from 2009 to 2016 to any other time, going back to the 50s. You take that chart further back. It's really unbelievable how few homes were built. So that's a big reason for this extreme amount of supply. And you can look at the overall population in the 50s, being 120,000, now, being close to 120 million, going up towards 360 million. So very interesting there. But the rental vacancy rate on the next page, I'll just cover that real quick, and then we'll get to questions. This is something that's interesting, everybody. If you look at this time frame, when was the last time vacancies were this low? Next slide, please. You have to go back a long time. Last time rates were also outrageous, right?
Yep.
Last time, it's because interest rates are so high, it's hard to buy a home. People get pushed into rentals, and there's extreme demand on rentals right now.
Yeah,
next slide.
Makes total sense.
Just show the affordability index. I'll let you guys speak to this. Anything jumping out to you gentlemen on the affordability index, and then we'll move to questions. Garrett, if you'll pop in.
Well, Steve, it looks like California took 3 of the top 5 spots, which is new. Like last year, it only had the 1. So LA, Irvine, and Long Beach. Let's see, Houston's becoming less affordable. It went from 43 to 30. Dallas is about the same. Austin, less affordable as well. But to your San Antonio, 69, it's super affordable. A lot of those tertiary markets you talk about, like going into San Marcos and those areas, there's still great deals there. Those home prices, those medians are, if you just look at the bottom 5 in Texas, 245, 250, 278, 265. Only when you get to Arlington does it bump up to 340. And even then, that's still within your range of sweet spot that you're talking about for buying properties. So there's tons of opportunities here. But what do you think, Steve?
I got to agree with you again. You're on the ball today, that's for sure. I think you're right on. I am shocked at that Plano home price of $525. I'll tell you that.
Look at the income
a month. Look at that mortgage payment. $3,400 a month.
And the Beverly Hills of Dallas.
And they only make $107 a year. Wow, that's a big chunk going just to live.
You know what's interesting about that? Let's just take that. It does seem extreme for the rest, for what you would think in Texas, but they make $107,000. Look what they make in Los Angeles on average, $77,000. What's the home cost? $1.1 million.
I would love to know we looked at the homeowner index, or the rental vacancy rate. Basically, I would love to know the percentage of citizens that own a home. I got to believe in LA, it's minute. Nobody has properties there.
Miami's comparable, 735, significantly higher home price, making half the money. As bad as they look here, that's why people are moving here. You know what I mean? It seems difficult. But.
Those numbers at the top, I just see that. I see that is a literal definition of have and have nots in those markets. Because if you have an average price of $1 million and they only have an average making 70 grand, you know that there's the numbers that are skewing that big time.
So let's get to our one question. We're just going to do one since we're a little bit behind. Then we're going to do our drawing and winner, and then we'll let Steve wrap up. So Derek, are you there?
Yes, it's trying to load the camera, but if you can hear me, I'll go ahead and read the question here.
Sure.
All right, so for the question today, we had one question about considering people holding onto their house to keep a low interest rate and more people renting. What is the best way to expand your portfolio and take advantage of this?
Let's
That's
Steve.
easy. Buy more rentals.
Get in the game.
Buy them right. Build up that monthly cash flow, build up your wealth. I mean, you go back to 2008, I was doing nothing but commercial deals, right? I ended up buying 20 or 30 houses because the market was just so great, just for fun almost. And because I couldn't resist it. I bought them all within 20 minutes of my home. It was crazy. And while we don't have that same opportunity now, these off-market deals that need a lot of rehab are still good deals. So I would continue to build my rental portfolio because I think renters are going to increase more and more and more.
Absolutely. All right, let's announce the drawing winner there, Derek.
So we do have a winner of today's drawing, half off your next hard money processing fee. Rick Martin is the winner of the drawing today. Rick Martin.
Congratulations, Rick.
I believe Rick may have a loan in our pipeline at the moment. I think I may have seen Rick's name. I think he is in the active pipeline as well. So one quick thing I do want to mention, and I want to give my team some kudos because we have already broken an all-time record in hard money loans for the month. We are tracking to break it by a large margin. So despite what you guys might hear out there, investors are very active right now. Whenever Steve says he hears some people saying that it's not the right market to be in, we are seeing that savvy investors feel it is the right market, and there's a lot out there doing it. So if you're interested in being mentored and learning about real estate investing, definitely reach out to Steve and his team. Best in the business. They'll do a great job for you. And if you're looking for getting finance for these, and the first thing you want to do is get pre-approved after you get your mentors locked in, so you know your pricing, you know what you can do, which categories of investing you can get in. We'd love to hear from you at Catalyst as well. So Steve, do you have anything in closing?
Yeah, Derek, do you mind going to the next slide? There we go. So thank you. Sorry, Steve.
No problem. I was just going to say, yeah, in your guys' Catalyst funding, their service is top notch. I've never had a member with a legitimate complaint in, dozens, if not over 100 deals. Just phenomenal. And I would like to plug our expo again.
Yes.
We have this expo coming up May 4th. May the 4th be with you. So we'll be celebrating Star Wars. And you can see the case studies of multiple deals that we're doing right now. So you know exactly how we're making money in this market. Go to totalwealthacademy.com/expo, and you can reserve a seat there. It's a free event. Lunch is served, cocktails. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, they have a great organization, and they throw a great party. So if you're interested, if you're interested, I highly recommend you go check it out. It's a great time.
It's a great time of year too. The last event, because you do it quarterly, fantastic weather. I just remember the weather was amazing. Yeah. So it's a great one to visit for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be nice.
Thank you so much, Steve. As always, excellent info. And
thank you, Wade. Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
You guys have a great
day. Congrats on Dallas, Steve.
All right, take care.
All right. Bye.